Today I'm going to unload and clean my muzzleloader. This is a CVA Acura MRX, and I shoot powder. I don't shoot pellets, so I have the 777 FFG in here. I was hunting this weekend. I thought I was going to get to hunt one more time, but I didn't. So now I need to clean it and unload it, and I don't have the ability to shoot it. If you've never watched one of my videos before, and you're wondering, why should I trust what this guy says? I'm Andrew Lukosevic. I'm the host of the Endure Hunt podcast. I am what I call an emergent hunter, and I started hunting back in 2018. I went on an elk and mule deer combination hunt in Montana with my best friend Peter, and that was my first hunting experience after I got out of the Marines, and I was hooked after that. I've been hunting every year since. I've hunted in 7 different states. I've hunted several different species, and I'll be honest, this is the first muzzleloader that I've ever bought. I got this muzzleloader this year. I've only been hunting with it this season, so I am not necessarily an expert on muzzleloaders and how to take care of your muzzleloader. I did spend a lot of time researching what to do, and I tried to figure out what works for me based on the things I read and saw on the internet, and that's what this video is going to be, me using the things that I saw and read and tried myself to see how they work. I hope it helps you because I know I struggled with this when I was getting started. One of the things when I first got this, knowing that I was going to be shooting powder, is I Googled how to unload safely without shooting. And I didn't find any really good videos. When I looked on the forums, I didn't find a whole bunch of advice either. And I've done it before. It's not pretty. It does kind of stink. But if you're like me and you're in this situation where you need to unload, you don't have the ability to shoot, hopefully this will help you. I've got this camera that you can see right now, and then I have an overhead on my hat here using the GoPro. Hopefully between the two, I'll be able to show you everything and kind of what my process is and how I go about cleaning it. So without further ado, let's get started. First things first, let's go over everything that I've got here today. So I obviously have my muzzleloader. I've got this anti-seize stick. This is from CVA, and it's for when you put the breech plug back in. It helps keep the threads so that you don't have to worry about using a machine to pull it out. It keeps it so you can remove this with your thumb. I have these Traditions pre-saturated cleaning patches. They are amazing. I was kind of skeptical at first, but highly recommend some form of pre-saturated patch. Doesn't have to be Traditions. I have Thor rust prevention patches. These are for the very end. You use these when you want to, or when you're all done, you want to make sure that you're going to put it away for some time, and you know you're not going to shoot it. Very helpful to put this to protect it from rusting. Then I have Thor muzzleloader parts solvent. I use this to let some things soak while I'm cleaning the rest of it, and it's extremely helpful for getting gunk out of tight spaces. As far as the actual equipment goes, I've got the normal ramrod with the cleaning attachment on the end, the extended cleaning attachment. I have actually 2 breech plug brushes. This one I use specifically for cleaning out powder from the threads. This one is if I just need to get gunk out, so I'm keeping them separated. I actually don't know what this tool is called, but this is what you use to take apart the trigger group, so I'm going to do that. This is a cleaning brush that I use for the tiny inside portion of the breech plug. It's not perfect, but it does help me get in there and clean things out. And then lastly, I have the nipple pick for going through the firing hole. Let's just make sure that everything gets out of there. You don't really need too much, and honestly, it's not that time consuming to get through everything. The first thing I need to do though is take this apart and then unload and get rid of the powder and remove the bullet that's currently in here. So if you can see this on the GoPro, I'm not sure how good the angle is. There is no primer in here. It's completely empty. I removed that when I was done hunting. Now, when you remove this, the powder is compacted, but some of it is going to fall out. So I recommend just taking everything apart. So for this particular muzzleloader, pop off the handguard, drop this, and then the whole thing is separated. So I'm actually going to take this and just set it aside for now. Move that over here. And I've got a trash bag set up. Honestly, there's not a great way of doing this. You're just going to take out your breech plug. All right, so the loose powder fell, I'm just hitting it now. And if you can see that, I'm not sure how well you can see it on the GoPro. I'll put it in front of the other camera. There is some powder jammed in there. That is to be expected. Same thing here. You definitely can't see that because I can't see it. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take the ramrod and I'm going to take paper towel and we are going to try and salvage at least the bullet. So I'm going to insert this here. All right, we made quite a mess. It is very messy, unfortunately, but that is what we are stuck with. So I did manage to get the bullet out. Set that to the side for now. We have a couple of clumps of powder. Try and keep that together. All right. So I am personally not going to reuse this powder. I don't know what it came in touch with, if it got contaminated with anything. So we're going to just set that aside. I'm going to move all of my equipment, and I'm going to try and dump the powder from this mat into the garbage. Try and keep the powder away from everything else. This bullet, actually, we'll put that back in the case. I'm shooting power belt, 245 grain, 50 caliber. They shoot very consistent. I'm very happy with the grouping in case you're looking for a new load to try. Highly recommend that. And, okay. Okay. Now, let's get everything back in here. So I want to start actually with this breech plug. I want to get it cleaning and then soaking while I work on the barrel. So first thing I'm going to do is use the nipple pick. I'm going to go back over the garbage and I'm going to attempt to push out anything that's in there. We'll see how lucky we get. All right, you're able to loosen up some stuff. Nice. Now, it's probably pretty hard to see, but actually that got almost everything out. Try and get you a view on the camera here. Try both ways. But actually almost everything came out. That actually worked out really, really great. I need to get more paper towels. Grab a whole new roll. And what I'm going to do is just try and use my hands in this paper towel and get off as much as I can. Now, because I didn't shoot it, there isn't any real buildup inside. It's actually quite clean. I still want to get everything out of here as much as possible. And I'm still going to run my brushes through. I just want to make sure I get everything out of there. So as clean as I can get this with the paper towel, I'm going to grab all of my brushes and everything again, actually. And I'm going to use the little one. So this guy, I shove in the bottom here and I just twist it in case there's anything built up in there. I go both directions because the way that the threads are, trying to get as much surface area as possible. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side, even though the firing hole is too small, it probably won't do anything. And then just run it in and out. And I can see light through the firing hole, so we're in pretty good shape there. There's no real gunk or anything built up on here, so for all intents and purposes, that worked out really well. I'm now going to open up the part soaker. You do have to be careful with the part soaker because it launches things. So I'm going to take this and put it in there. And in reality, I probably don't even need to use the part soaker because it's so clean. I didn't shoot it and I've cleaned it since the last time I used it. So actually, this step's probably not necessary, but I'm doing it anyway. And while I'm using the part soaker, I'm going to go ahead and take apart the rest of this trigger group. That's where this tool comes from. I'm hoping you can see this on the camera. Trying to make sure you can. And I'm just going to loosen this. You do need to be careful because there is a spring inside. And you don't want to lose that. And of course I'm saying this, which means I'm probably going to lose it. I'm going to try my best not to. Okay, that is completely out. Okay, let's go down. Nice. Did not lose it. We got everything in here. So we've got the little firing pin, the retaining screw, spring, and this all goes in here like this. There is a little rubber O-ring in here, so you do want to be careful with that. You don't want to damage it. But I'm also going to let these parts sit in the soaker. Again, with how clean everything is, this is probably not necessary, but I'm going to be letting it sit for a little bit, so I figure it can't hurt to do. Now, the surface of this actually does have some corrosion. I don't know what I did when I first got the muzzleloader, but I let it sit for a few weeks and something happened here, unfortunately. So I said I had two different thread brushes. This one is just going to be for inside here to clean out the leftover powder and residue. This is a relatively clean one that I use for cleaning the surfaces. Now this is basically just plastic, so it's not going to really do any damage. So I'm just going to try and clean up anything that's in here, get any gunk out, anything that's in the threads, just try and clean that all out. Now I can set this to the side. I'm basically done with that. I'm not going to use this anymore. And we can turn all of our attention to the barrel itself. So try and see if we can get an angle. There is a lot of powder in there, and that is the part of this process that stinks. You can see how much powder is built in. I don't know how well you'll be able to see through it at this point. I'm trying to get it so you can see through. But this is the part that makes this process stink. Yeah. So I'm going to take now this brush, and essentially when I look at the direction that this sits, if you spin this way or this way, you can see that anything that is here, if you spin this direction, is going to get pushed down. If you do this way, anything that's here is going to get pushed up because it'll go with the pattern. So my idea, I could be wrong, but the way I do this is I stick this in and then I rotate it trying to get anything to come out. So I'm going to stick this in, go over the garbage can, and essentially just rotate it out. And I'm going to rotate and pull and try and do that until I get everything out. Okay, let's take a look and see how much we have left. And as far as the threads go, and I know you can't really see this right now, as far as the threads go, I think the threads are clean now. There is some buildup inside of the barrel itself. So I don't know, I'm trying to make it so you can see this on the camera. There is some powder inside the end of the barrel right before it gets to the threads. So at this point, brushes are going aside, and we're going to be using the pre-saturated patches, and I'm going to push a couple of those through, trying to clean out anything and take a look every time I use a patch and see. So now I'm going to take a patch. I'm going to put it on the end of the ramrod, and we're going to run it through. And every time I run it through, I'm going to take a look. The patch itself should not get very dirty, considering I haven't actually shot it. My hope is that it's just going to take out the powder. And we can see there's some powder that came out of there. So now I'm going to push this back through, carefully trying not to damage the threads. I'm going to take another look. And actually that one patch seems like it was enough. Now there is a little bit left in the threads. So I'm going to try and show through the camera to a few different angles to see what you can see. But the barrel itself looks clean. I will probably run another patch through, but first I'm going to take the clean brush and I'm going to run that in and do the exact same thing because there isn't as much buildup in here. So I'm going to use the other thread brush and try and clean it out that way. Now I did get some more powder out. The brush itself looks okay. Let's take another look. All right, all of the powder is now out of the threads, but there is more inside the muzzle. So what was left went back in the muzzle, so we're going to take another clean patch. I'm going to run it through. Okay, that came loose, so I had to tighten that down and run through again. Okay. All right. Now, let's take another look. This patch has some powder on it. And we are in good shape. I think we got everything out of there. So now, we've gotten all of the powder out. These parts have been soaking for a couple of minutes. Again, it's not really that important for these to be soaked. I'm going to be putting this muzzleloader away for a little bit. I am going away for Thanksgiving as I record this, and it's probably going to be a week or two before I shoot it, so I want to make sure that it's going to be safe and clean. Now, I've ran that cleaning patch through. I'm going to clean everything else now, reassemble it, and then I'm going to run one more cleaning patch through. I'm going to run a couple of dry patches through to dry out the inside, and then I'm going to use the rust prevention patch both inside and outside. I'm going to put it on the barrel. I'm going to put it on the rest of the gun as well. So let's take these parts out. I'm going to take the breech plug first, and we are going to dry it. Now, it's not going to be perfectly dry or clean for that matter, but we can get just about everything off of it. Okay. Grab another paper towel. Now, one thing I did not touch on when I went over the different parts, but one of the things that I think is a cleaning must that I picked up from the Marines is Q-tips. Q-tips can get in all of the tight places where you can't, and they are incredibly helpful. So I'm going to take a Q-tip, going to run it on the inside, try and get the firing hole, do a little circular motion in here. I actually have no idea what this little insert is called, but I'm going to clean it in there too. And then run it on the edges. I don't really want there to be any liquid left. I want this to be pretty dry. So get rid of that one. Do the same thing on the inside here. Go and rub it on the firing hole and do this circular motion all the way out. That's pretty good. Let me run it on the inside of this channel. All right, I think the breech plug is in good shape. So I'm going to wipe down the threads one more time. And now we're going to take our anti-seize stick and we're going to put on a decent amount. I feel like I adjust the amount every single time I do this because I started by putting too much on and I probably still put too much on. But essentially, I just run this on the threads. And then to many people's dissatisfaction, probably, I just use my fingers. I don't wear gloves or anything when I do this. I'm sure if people feel strongly about that, I'll hear about it on the comments. But just do that, wipe my hands. So I'm going to now reinsert the breech plug, and we're going to go until it seats all of the way. Okay. Now that that is tightly secured on there, we have to reassemble our trigger group. So I'm going to take these parts. It's really just the firing pin and the spring that I have in here right now. Take both of those out, and we're going to dry them with a paper towel. Spring's a little bit harder, just taking it in the paper towel and just trying to squeeze it and get as much liquid out as I can. And then we have to actually reassemble it. I won't lie, I have struggled with putting this back in, so we will see how it goes. So, get everything lined up here. And I don't know how well you can see it, but I basically just tried to shove it down. And now I'm just going to try and get it started with my fingers. I think doing a reverse thread, so turning it counterclockwise, will help you get the thread lined up. And then once you do that, you can go the correct direction. And because it didn't pop out, I think I'm in the right shape. Yep. Okay, we got it going now. I'm going to tighten it by hand until I can't anymore, which isn't very long. And there we go the rest of the way with the tool. I hope you can see this. Okay, that is tight. I'm going to grab the trigger and push this forward, and that works. You can grab the trigger back and pull, and it works. So function checking, everything seems to be working just fine. And now we can reassemble the muzzleloader. Take the barrel and line it back up and pull down this release, put it in place. I can see that there is still some powder, so I'm actually going to wipe that paper towel, try and clean that out of the way. Okay. Now we can put our handguard back on. If you have a sling on it the way I do, make sure you do enough rotations to fix it. I did not do that once, and it was quite awkward wearing it in the field. Now slide this on until it clicks, and we are in good shape. So now the whole thing is reassembled. Technically, it's been cleaned, but I'm going to run another wet patch inside and make sure that everything is good to go. Then I'm going to run a dry patch through it. Then we'll take some rust prevention patches, run them inside, and then I'm just going to use my hands and wipe it on the outside, as well as for this face where the breech plug meets. Okay. And run this down. Oh, that it came loose. All right. And that's what you want right there. It looks great. There's nothing on it, no real residue. Everything looks solid. So we are in good shape there. I grabbed a couple of dry patches. Sometimes it takes a few. So we'll see how many it takes to dry out. Same process though. Put it on here. Run it through. I don't know how well you can tell. It's a little wet. It's not that wet, so we definitely need another one. Still no residue on it, which is great. It means this thing has been thoroughly cleaned. Still wet. Tiny bit wet still, so we'll run another one. Like I said, it can take a few. All right. I'm going to call that good. We're going to seal up the parts soaker. Try to make sure that's on good and tight. Don't want that to spill. Going to close up these pre-saturated patches. And now we'll take out our rust prevention patches. Now all we need to do is take one and run it through the same way we've been running through everything else. Okay. And that's it for the inside. Now I'm going to take one. I'm going to open up this breech. And I'm going to just run it on here. Probably use a Q-tip. Could have done this when it was taken apart and make sure that we get it on there. I want to get all of the inside. And same thing on the back side of the breech plug. Close it back up. I'm going to throw this one out. Grab one more. And we're just going to rub the outside of everything. So, trying not to go on the plastic, although you're inevitably gonna. I don't know that it'll do any damage to the plastic, but I know I don't need to prevent it from rusting, so I'm trying to avoid it as much as I can. And then rubbing the outside of the barrel. Okay. Now I can take that paper towel, wipe the plastic parts down, because we don't need those to have the rust prevention on there. Try and keep those clean. Got a good amount of buildup on that side. Okay, and we are done. Now I'm going to take it, put it in my safe, and leave it until I'm ready to go hunting again. All right, and that's it. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this helped you if you're in the same situation as me and you have a muzzleloader, you shoot loose powder, and you don't know the right way to unload it and clean it without having any issues. I don't know for 100% certain that this way is the best way, but it has been working for me so far. And if anyone has a better way, please let me know in the comments. I would love to know how I can improve this process and make things any better. Time is the most valuable asset, and I don't take it for granted that you chose to spend it with me. I hope this helped you. I hope that you learned something. Thank you for spending time with me today, and I'll see you all next time.